Imagine for a moment you're running, say, a boutique manufacturing firm, maybe making custom furniture, or perhaps a small tech startup. You're constantly looking for ways to expand, right, to optimize. But then you hear about a new global trade deal, and you might think, that's for the big players, surely. Mhm. Well, what's really fascinating about this new trade deal with Japan is how it seems specifically designed to reshape things. Not just for those giant corporations, but right down to small and medium sized businesses like yours. The ones that are really the driving force of our economies. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to try and cut through that complexity. Our mission is to understand the nuanced impact of this latest trade agreement with Japan, specifically on SMEs, small and medium sized enterprises. For this deep dive, we've synthesized insights from a specialized interactive report and also an in-depth article by factoring specialist Chris Lenz. We're going to uncover the core provisions, the potential opportunities, the very real challenges too, and maybe most importantly, the strategic responses your business can take. We really want you to walk away feeling truly well-informed, but, without the usual information overload.
That's absolutely right. And it's interesting because while these major agreements, they always aim to foster growth and reduce barriers on a macro scale, their specific effects on SMEs, which are often agile, adaptable, but also quite vulnerable, well, those effects frequently remain underexplored. This deep dive should really highlight the so what for your business, help you see where you fit in the picture.
Okay, so let's start there then. What are the absolute core provisions, the key takeaways from this new Japan trade deal that every small business owner should probably have on their radar? What are the new rules of the game, so to speak?
Well, fundamentally, like a lot of trade deals, this one focuses on a few key areas, things that directly impact how easily and affordably you can do business across borders. The first one, and it's often the most visible, is tariff reductions or eliminations. Simply put, it means lower or sometimes completely remove taxes on imported goods.
Okay, so if I'm, say, a small importer bringing in specialized machine parts from Japan, this could directly cut my costs. But how quickly would those changes kick in? Is it like an immediate win, or is it phased over years?
That's a great question. It often depends on the specific product. Some tariffs might vanish overnight, as soon as the deal is implemented. Others might be phased out gradually over several years. There are schedules for this.
Oh.
But the core benefit is pretty clear. If you import raw materials, components, maybe machinery from Japan, your input costs could go down significantly. And looking at it the other way, if you're exporting your products to Japan,
Right.
they become more price competitive there, which could directly boost your potential profit margins of the Japanese market.
Makes sense. Okay, so beyond tariffs, what's next on the list?
Next up, there's a significant push for simplified customs procedures. This is often about addressing what are called non-tariff barriers, or NTBs.
NTBs. Okay, non-tariff barriers. That sounds a bit technical. Can you break that down? Like, what's a common example an SME might hit? And how does this deal actually smooth things out?
Sure. Think of it like this. Maybe you sell a specialty food product, like gourmet snacks. Before this deal, you might have needed separate, quite different safety certifications, one for here and another completely different process for Japan.
Okay. Double the paperwork, double the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This deal aims for more mutual recognition. So if your product is certified safe here, Japan is more likely to accept that certification. It's all about streamlining those border processes, cutting down the paperwork, which speeds up logistics and reduces that administrative overhead. For an SME, one that probably doesn't have a huge compliance department.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
It really is. It means less time getting stuck in customs, more time actually selling your product.
That sounds incredibly practical. Okay, what about protecting unique ideas, your innovations?
Critically important. The deal includes enhanced intellectual property protection, IP protection. This means stronger legal safeguards for things like patents, trademarks, copyrights. It's really about protecting your innovation, giving you greater assurance if you're introducing new products or technologies into the Japanese market, and, importantly, reducing the risk of counterfeiting or, someone just using your unique creations without permission.
That sounds incredibly reassuring, especially for any small business that has unique IP. But let's be realistic for a second. For an SME with maybe limited legal resources, how much real-world protection does this truly offer against, say, a determined, well-resourced infringer over there?
That's a very valid concern. Look, the legal framework is stronger on paper, yes, but practical enforcement, that still requires vigilance from the business itself. However, the agreement does aim to provide clearer, perhaps faster, dispute settlement mechanisms specifically for IP issues. The idea is to make it easier and potentially less costly for SMEs to pursue action if needed, rather than facing these huge, protracted, expensive international legal battles completely alone.
Okay, so it gives you a stronger starting point, legally speaking.
Exactly, a stronger leg to stand on from the outset. Then, really crucial for the modern economy, there are new rules specifically designed to facilitate digital trade and e-commerce. This could open up significant doors for tech companies, for service-based SMEs. The deal aims to prohibit things like data localization requirements.
Meaning you don't have to build servers in Japan just to operate there.
Precisely. Countries can't force you to store data on servers physically within their borders, and it tries to ensure the free flow of data across borders, which is just essential for almost all online operations today.
Yeah. Right. So a software company with a cloud service or maybe an online education provider, they wouldn't have to worry about building separate data centers in Japan just to comply.
That's the goal. It removes what could be a massive logistical and financial hurdle. It makes it much easier to run your global digital operations more centrally. Borders become, well, less like barriers and more just lines on a map for data flow.
Interesting. What else is in there?
We also see some services trade liberalization, making it potentially easier for professionals, think financial services, consulting digital services, to offer their expertise in Japan. That might involve things like streamlined visa processes or perhaps mutual recognition of professional qualifications. And finally, just to round it out, the deal includes investment provisions and clear dispute settlement mechanisms. These offer protections for foreign investors and provide clearer frameworks for resolving trade disputes if they arise. It adds a layer of stability and legal certainty for businesses looking to invest or partner up.
Okay, wow. You've just laid out a pretty compelling case for the potential upsides here. A lot of opportunities opening up. But, as you mentioned right at the start, this is often described as a double-edged sword. So, let's flip the coin. Beyond the exciting opportunities, what are the practical hurdles, the potential risks that small businesses absolutely need to be aware of and prepared for?
Right. That's the vital next step in understanding this. Because while opportunities are there, the hurdles are significant too. I'd say the most immediate one for many will be increased competition. It works both ways, right? Japanese businesses will also gain easier access to your domestic market.
So more competition right here at home.
Exactly. And it's not just domestic competition either. There's also potentially increased global competition in third country markets, where businesses from both nations might be competing. So your small business really needs to think about enhancing its competitiveness, whether that's through quality, price, innovation, or maybe a mix of all three.
So, okay, using my earlier example, if I'm making artisanal textiles here, and suddenly similar, maybe high-quality Japanese textiles can come in with lower tariffs, my local market just got tougher. How does an SME, probably already stretched thin, even prepare for that kind of thing?
It really requires a strategic look at your unique value proposition. What makes you different? Are you focusing on a very specific niche? Can you offer a level of customization or maybe customer service that a larger foreign competitor might struggle to replicate? It really comes down to differentiation and potentially innovating your own product or service to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, differentiation is key. What other hurdles?
Well, there are still regulatory and compliance hurdles, even with simplification efforts. For instance, you need to understand these complex rules of origin to actually qualify for the preferential tariff treatment. It's not always automatic.
Rules of origin. Yeah, that sounds like it could be a bureaucratic nightmare for a small outfit. What does that actually mean for my product?
Basically, it means that to get the benefit of those lower tariffs, your product needs to prove it was substantially made in one of the countries that signed the deal. So let's say you assemble a product using components from lots of different countries.
Which many businesses do.
Right. You'll need documentation to show that a certain percentage of its value, or maybe key processing steps, happen either in your home country or in Japan. It definitely adds a layer of paperwork and verification, even if the end goal is lower tariffs.
Okay.
And yes, navigating specifically Japanese standards, even with harmonization efforts, can still be a challenge. Think unique packaging requirements, labeling nuances reflecting cultural preferences that might require product adaptation and certification, which costs time and money.
Got it. What about supply chains?
Supply chain adjustments can also pose risks. It's not all smooth sailing. For example, if tariffs are not eliminated on specific items you happen to import from Japan, or maybe if the rules of origin are just too complex or costly for you to meet for those items, you could actually face increased costs for those particular inputs, which would obviously strain cash flow and potentially reduce your margins.
So wait, the goal is lower costs, but the reality could actually be higher costs if I don't navigate the fine print correctly, or if my supply chain isn't simple enough to qualify under these rules.
That's exactly the risk. It requires careful analysis,
Yeah.
and then there are the potential disruption and adaptation costs.
Yeah.
Just the process of reevaluating your existing supply chains, maybe finding alternative suppliers if needed, potentially shifting some production, adjusting logistics, inventory management, all that comes with a cost. And we shouldn't entirely ignore the, albeit maybe smaller, risk of retaliatory tariffs from other trading partners down the line if this specific deal leads to trade imbalances. That could suddenly impact your exports to those other markets. It's a complex, interconnected system.
Right. It's never just about two countries in isolation.
Never. Finally, there are often investment requirements. If you want to scale up for export or even just compete more intensely in your newly competitive domestic market, that might require significant capital investment. Think marketing, distribution networks in a new market.
Yeah, breaking into Japan isn't cheap.
Definitely not. And one last point, particularly relevant today. For any business handling customer data, cybersecurity and data privacy are paramount. You'll absolutely need to understand and navigate Japan's quite robust data privacy regulations, like their Act on Protection of Personal Information, the APPI. Ensuring secure cross-border data transfers and proper handling of customer data is non-negotiable.
Okay, so we've covered the rules, the opportunities, and now the challenges, which
Yeah.
brings us to the big question. What does this all mean for your specific business listening right now? We know the impact isn't going to be uniform across the board. How does it tend to vary by sector? And then, crucially, what are the concrete proactive steps an SME can actually take to prepare, adapt, and hopefully thrive in this new landscape?
That is the crucial question, because you're right, the impact really does vary sector by sector. It's not monolithic. Just as quick examples. In manufacturing, you might find opportunities for high-tech components, maybe specialized machinery parts, but you'll also face that fierce competition from established Japanese manufacturers. In agriculture and food, maybe opportunities for specific products where tariffs drop significantly. But you'll face really strict import regulations and need to cater to very specific Japanese consumer preferences, taste, packaging, everything.
Yeah, I hear their standards are exacting.
Extremely. For technology and software, there's likely high demand for innovative solutions. But challenges might pop up around IP enforcement despite the rules and just cultural nuances in how technology is adopted and used. And for services, as we mentioned, likely growth in digital services, maybe education exports, but challenges could include professional licensing hurdles or language barriers.
So, okay, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all opportunity or threat. Given that complexity, what's the SME playbook here? Where does a small business owner even begin?
A proactive approach is just. It's essential. You can't wait and see. First, market research and due diligence are absolutely key. You need to deeply understand the Japanese market, consumer behavior, existing competition, distribution channels. Don't just assume what works in your home market will translate directly.
Okay, but market research can sound daunting and expensive for a small business. What's a realistic way to even start that research without, hiring a massive consulting firm?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Often, government export agencies, most countries have them, or even industry associations, can provide really valuable initial market intelligence, maybe contacts, sometimes even subsidized reports. It's a good starting point. Second, leveraging digital tools is critical today. That could mean using e-commerce platforms to maybe test the waters, test demand for your product without huge investment, or using digital marketing to reach very specific Japanese consumer segments, using data analytics to gain insights.
Makes sense. Use the tools available.
Third, building partnerships is often vital, especially for market entry. Collaborating with Japanese distributors, finding good agents, maybe even considering joint venture partners. That can really smooth the path and help navigate those cultural nuances we talked about. Find someone who knows the terrain.
Right, local expertise. What else is in the playbook?
Fourth, really focus on niche markets and differentiation. Ask yourself, what is your unique value proposition? Can you emphasize quality, maybe innovation, sustainability, something that truly sets you apart in the Japanese context? Don't try to compete just on price against giants. Fifth, be prepared to adapt your products and services. This is crucial. Customization might be needed to meet specific Japanese standards, local tastes, cultural preferences. That could be anything from packaging and branding to localizing your website and marketing messages.
So localization is key.
Absolutely. Sixth, robust financial planning and risk management. You need to assess the potential financial implications of these trade shifts, both positive and negative. And critically, think about hedging against currency fluctuations. Exchange rate swings can quickly eat into the profits of small businesses operating internationally. And finally, don't forget investing in human capital. That could mean language training for key staff, cultural sensitivity training, or maybe even hiring local talent in Japan if you reach that stage. It makes a huge difference in building trust and operating effectively.
That's a really practical list. And are there specific support systems SMEs should look for? You mentioned government agencies.
Yes, absolutely. It's really worth highlighting the role of those government programs. Export promotion agencies often have grants or support programs, and also industry associations. They can provide invaluable information, resources, sometimes training, often tailored specifically to SMEs looking to navigate international trade complexities like this deal. You don't have to figure it all out alone.
Okay, so let's try and quickly recap this deep dive then. This new Japan trade deal, it fundamentally reshapes the landscape for small and medium-sized businesses. It does this through key provisions like tariff reductions, simplified customs, better IP protection, and importantly, new rules for digital trade. This throws open doors for significant opportunities, think new market access, potential supply chain advantages, cost savings. But it also presents very real and tangible challenges like increased competition both at home and abroad and some complex regulatory hurdles to navigate. Ultimately, your success, whether you're looking to export to Japan or just navigating the shifting dynamics in your home market, it really hinges on understanding these shifts deeply and on proactive strategic planning, whether that's through meticulous market research, really leveraging digital tools, building smart partnerships, or being willing to adapt your products and services for a new context.
Exactly. And, this whole discussion raises a really important, maybe broader question for the future. As these global trade agreements become increasingly complex and increasingly digital in nature, how is the very definition of a local business going to fundamentally change? And what does true global resilience actually look like for even the smallest enterprise in the years ahead?
That is an incredibly important thought to leave us with. Something for all of us running or working in businesses to mull over. Definitely keep exploring this topic because in a world that's constantly shifting, the power of knowledge, of understanding these changes, is probably your best tool for navigating these complex global shifts.